Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Welcome to Wat Tung. Welcome to anyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. Enlightenment was where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It no longer experiences any discontent feelings. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. And there's other qualities as well that one is experiencing. What I'm going to do today is guide you guys in a meditation session to help you guys understand a little bit about meditation. And then afterwards, I'm going to do a talk on chapter 14 from this book, where chapter 14 is titled Cultivating Healthy Mental States, Loving Kindness, Compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. These are 4 healthy mental states that you would need to cultivate on your way to enlightenment, because there's certain symptoms that you have in your mind, certain experiences that you're having that these healthy mental states antidote and will fix for you. So I'm going to explain to you what these healthy mental states are. I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that you're going to see when you're not practicing these. And then I'm going to explain to you how to cultivate these healthy mental states so you can remedy the difficulties and challenges that you're experiencing within your own mind. So welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online as well. If you'd like to join for meditation, I start with chanting to ease us into the meditation. And you'll find these chants on a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get one if you like. And you're even welcome to chant along. You're going to see the Pali language. That's what we're chanting in. And then you're going to see the English translations as well. For those of you guys that are online, you can actually access this by going to buddhadailywisdom.com. From there, you'll see the link for free books, and you can scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see the daily chanting sheet. Because the chanting that we do today is to help ease our mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, so that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So you can see that chanting didn't come about through any kind of mystical or magical things. It's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. Again, during the lifetime of the Buddha, they purely used it as a way to commit the teachings to memory, because everything he taught was oral. So they needed a way to commit the teachings to memory, and reciting them every 2 weeks was the way that they were able to accomplish that. Today, we just use it to help ease the mind into meditation, because we don't need to remember the teachings through chanting. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, all these kinds of things. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't even think the Buddha created these chants. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and teach people to chant to him out of respect to him, because this would be ego or arrogance. This would be putting yourself above other people and looking down on people. So the Buddha wouldn't have created these. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and all those other discontent feelings to the peace and the joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this person didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you would probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So I suspect his students created this. And as we're chanted, just be sure you understand that it's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. It's all about training your mind. And that's what meditation is for, is to train your mind. So you're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually training your mind now in this life to experience peace and joy, get rid of the pollutions of mind so that you can experience this enlightened mental state. After the chanting, I'm going to then come in with some guidance so that you guys will hear how to actually meditate while we're meditating. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just meditating together. Everyone here at the temple, anyone who's joining us online, we'll just all be meditating. I'm sure you'll hear an occasional sound. You might hear a car go by. You might hear a bird chirping, a dog barking. Any of these kinds of things can happen. And as long as your mind doesn't crave permanent silence, you won't be annoyed or frustrated or agitated in those situations. situations. If you're craving permanent silence, but yet you live in an impermanent world, you'll be frustrated or annoyed when you hear that sound. But you can get rid of this annoyment and this frustration by eliminating your craving for permanent silence, understanding that you live in an impermanent world. So we'll be meditating together, and then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times. This is part of kind of assembling a tool belt to be able to then apply the techniques and the teachings that the Buddha shared at different times in your life to be able to accomplish the training and purification of your mind to get to enlightenment. But usually students are just starting to learn in the seated position. So I'll share that with you, a little bit of guidance on that, because this is where most people are starting. You can be sitting on the floor or on a chair. Some people might sit on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair. These are all options for people to sit during their meditation. And if you're on the floor, you might decide to have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat. And then if you're going to cross your legs, you might just do that lightly rather than real tight, because this will impede the circulation and make it painful for you to be sitting. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and it allows the circulation to flow. So that is an option for you as well. But this isn't about everybody doing it the same way. You need to find what's comfortable for you. So what I'm sharing with you here is just suggestions or things for you to consider, so you find whatever's comfortable for you. And then the hands and the arms, same thing. There's no permanent way to do this. The Buddha did put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap, but you may or may not find that comfortable. And you don't have to do that in order to be able to get to enlightenment. There's other options. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. And this is the same thing for anyone in a chair or on a sofa, a bench, or a wheelchair. There's not just one way to sit, but some options to consider is you might put your feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, and then put your hands and arms wherever is comfortable. It's helpful if your upper body is erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Whereas if you were slouched, not only would it be challenging to breathe, but your mind would tend to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll keep the mind attentive and alert and make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join along, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavatu Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang สัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโหตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone joining us online as well. Today, I'm going to share a topic with you about the 4 healthy mental states to cultivate in the mind in order to make your way to enlightenment. Where this comes from is the teachings of the Buddha, where he's helping to guide students to this enlightened mental state that he accomplished during his lifetime. He figured out how to get to this peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy by himself without the help of any teachers or any guides. This is one of the criteria of what makes a Buddha a Buddha. And then he dedicated the rest of his life to sharing his independently discovered teachings, helping countless people to be able to get to the same mental state. And you can accomplish this mental state yourself through actually training the mind. You're going to need teachers and guides because you're not a Buddha, but you can actually train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. As I mentioned at the beginning, this enlightened mental state is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, that it's not experiencing any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings in others are eliminated from the enlightened mind. There's not even the slightest displeasure in the enlightened mind. Now you might be experiencing these feelings, but you can actually train your mind to eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing it. And by you uprooting these pollutions out of the mind that the Buddha discovered, making your way closer and closer to enlightenment, not only will you eliminate the discontent feelings, but you'll get to the point where the mind's focused and concentrated. You have clarity and deep memory because the mind's now performing optimally. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming. They'll be at ease because you won't be bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships anymore. Right now, you might think when you're bitter, harsh, and hostile that other people are causing it, and maybe you think that they might deserve this. But this is actually coming from your own mind. You can get to the point where you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile to people any longer. You can be loving and kind and warm and gentle, and then you'll see that this is what's coming back to you. But as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile to others, this is what's going to come back to you in your relationships. You can get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood any longer, that the causes and conditions that produce the bad mood have been uprooted. This topic of the 4 healthy mental states that you need to cultivate in order to eradicate certain symptoms in your mind, this is where the Buddha oftentimes gets the reputation of being like a doctor, because there's certain symptoms that are in your mind, and then there's a certain prescription or an antidote that you can apply in order to eliminate those symptoms. But you can actually be your own best doctor, because you can observe your own mind, you can cultivate mindfulness, you can know when your mind is becoming angry or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings. And if you know what the symptoms are, then you can bring in the remedies as well. If you understand the prescriptions of how to antidote these difficult emotions that you're experiencing from time to time, you can get to the point where you are your own best doctor. And this is what ideally you would like to be able to do, because a teacher can't be there with you every single moment and tell you what's going on within your own mind. You need to be able to see those things for yourself. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to help you to understand what these 4 healthy mental states are. I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that you'll experience when you're not practicing these 4 healthy mental states. And then I'm going to explain to you how to cultivate these in the mind and bring them in to antidote the various challenges and difficulties in the mind. There's a core central teaching that the Buddha taught called the Eightfold Path that a student would need to learn inside and out, backwards and forwards, in order to make their way towards enlightenment. This is where you first get on the path. You will learn the Eightfold Path. And I teach this in the various courses and programs that I share using the original words of the Buddha, and I share it in the books and videos and podcasts. All this stuff is available for you at no cost. Whether you're here at the temple, you can attend live classes, or as you travel, you can attend through our live stream, because we live stream to Facebook, YouTube, Zoom. We have a podcast, and all these recordings are available at any time. You'll be able to access these. So you can actually learn this Eightfold Path, because that's a core central teaching that you need in order to be making your way to enlightenment. And then there's other teachings that plug into the Eightfold Path. And this is one of those teachings. Sometimes people refer to this as the Brahma-viharas, and I'll explain to you why that is in a moment. But before we get started on this particular topic, let me just share something with those of you guys that maybe it's your first time here at the temple to help you guys feel even more comfortable. Back in the back of the room, the last 2 doors, there's bathrooms there. You're welcome to use those at any time. If you feel like you would like to use the restroom, just feel free to help yourself. There's even restrooms outside the classroom. If you go out to the parking lot, there's signs that'll take you around to the main temple bathroom. You're welcome to use those as well. We even have snacks and refreshments over here on this area that our students provide. So you're welcome to help yourself to anything over there. And I see the top part of the snack area isn't really replenished, but if you look underneath in the cabinet, you're going to see a whole bunch of snacks that students come and they bring and they share with you guys, so that you guys can have some snacks if you would like anything while you're here. So as we go, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. I'm going to pause at different times, and if you would like to ask questions here at the temple, we have microphones in front of the camera in the white bowl. If you could just get a microphone, press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and then you just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can just keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share your microphone. And then when you're not using it, if you could just turn it off so that we don't get feedback from the speakers, that would be really helpful. And then for anyone online, if you would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that and answer your question. And if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and unmute your microphone. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and we'll be able to hear you online as well. So this topic of the 4 healthy mental states of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic, joy, and equanimity, this is going to help to eradicate certain symptoms that are problematic in your mind. This is going to help you to get to more peace and more joy in your mind. You wouldn't be able to get to the peace and joy solely through this teaching, but this teaching plugs into the core central teaching of the Buddha called the Eightfold Path. This is chapter 14 of this first book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is the first book of our book series, and you can actually get this for free by downloading it from our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. So these 4 healthy mental states are oftentimes referred to as the Brahma-viharas. During the lifetime of the Buddha, there were multiple people that were teaching and kind of helping to guide people along what we might consider to be a spiritual path. The predominant thing that was going on during the lifetime of the Buddha is something called Brahmanism, or today we might refer to it as Hindu teachings, that there were Brahmin who were actually like Hindu priests that were sharing rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship in order to what they consider to help people in their day-to-day life. The common belief that was held among common people is that you couldn't change your life. You couldn't do anything to improve your life. The way that your life was going to improve is you needed to visit these Hindu priests. You would pay them a fee, and then they were going to do a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship on your behalf, and you were supposed to go home, and your life was going to get better. And these Brahmin would become Brahmin because they were born into a family. There was a very strong caste system in place, and about 15% of society was considered to be holy people. And they were born into this Brahmin class, and it was thought that they were responsible for doing rites and rituals and ceremonies for everyone else. And your life wouldn't get better unless you went to these people and actually paid them to do a service on your behalf. And as you can see, this isn't the way the world works. And people discovered that this is actually not working. And there was a lot of corruption because of this too, because all of us, the 85%, would go to the Brahmin and say, hey, I need you to perform this ceremony. And they say, okay, that's $5. So you pay them their $5. They would do the ceremony. You would go home, and maybe your life wasn't getting any better because, of course, that isn't going to make your life better. And now you go back to them and you say, hey, I need you to do that ceremony again. Oh, that's going to be $10. Well, why? Oh, because I said so, right? And we were thinking as common people that we couldn't do anything to change our life. So you're kind of stuck and locked in to paying this particular fee. So when the Buddha came in and he started teaching, he helped people to understand that this isn't true. This isn't the way that your life gets better. It doesn't get better through rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship. You can't go to somebody and perform some kind of ritual or ceremony and your life's just going to magically get better. The way that your life gets better is through cultivating wisdom, through training your mind, through making wiser decisions. When you make wiser decisions, you will experience more wholesome results in your day-to-day life. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate. You're not locked into anything whatsoever. You can actually just cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. But if it's destiny or fate or good luck or bad luck, or maybe some people think it's God that's controlling the world, or maybe you think that what you experience is because of other people. If you think this way, you're locked in. You can't do anything to fix your life because you can't change good luck or bad luck. You can't change destiny or fate. You can't change God, and you can't change other people. So if you lock yourself into this kind of thinking, this is a defeating way to think about the world and to think about your life because you can't change anything about your life. But if you come to understand what the Buddha taught, which is what you experience in your day-to-day life is based on your decisions, and when you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome results or wholesome Dhamma. When you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome results or unwholesome Dhamma. This is very empowering because now, if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's happening in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results in your day-to-day life. But you can't do that if what you're experiencing is destiny or fate, or good luck or bad luck, or if it's God that's controlling you, or if it's other people that are causing the unwholesome things in your life. So you can empower yourself by cultivating the wisdom of the natural laws that the Buddha taught, namely the natural law of Dhamma, of cause and effect, or action and result. When you see the truth in this natural law, then you'll see that all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results in your day-to-day life. But where this word Brahma-vihara comes from is it comes from the Brahmin, who the word Brahma during the lifetime of the Buddha and even now, it means God. The word Vihara means abode or dwelling or place to reside. So what the Brahmin were teaching is they were teaching these 4 healthy mental states, and they were thinking that this is how you dwell peacefully with God. And this isn't how the Buddha taught it. The Buddha taught it as part of training your mind and eliminating symptoms that are causing difficulties and struggles in your day-to-day life. So the Buddha's teachings, he put together a package of teachings that's going to completely liberate your mind and get to this peaceful and joyful mental state. But because the Brahma-viharas were being taught during his lifetime, and he practiced them, and he could see that it actually worked to improve the condition of his mind, he knew that this was part of the path to enlightenment. So he taught these 4 healthy mental states as a way to antidote certain symptoms in your mind. He didn't teach that the goal is to dwell with God. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is for you to get to peace and joy in this particular life. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of beliefs and then you hope something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, investigating, and examining teachings now in this life. You're reflecting on those teachings to independently verify them, and then you're practicing teachings, integrating these tools and techniques into your day-to-day life in order to train your mind and antidote your mind and transform your mind. And these 4 healthy mental states are going to transform your mind away from certain symptoms that you're experiencing and certain struggles and difficulties that you're experiencing. And now when you cultivate these healthy mental states, you're going to see that your mind performs very differently. For example, this first one, this is loving kindness. What loving kindness is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment, a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you can think very lovingly and very kindly about the individuals around you. Because what that is antidoting is it's antidoting this anger, this hatred, this ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, irritation, annoyance, dislike. Right now, there might be certain people in your mind and in your life that you like, and then there might be certain people that you dislike. That dislike is actually coming from your own mind. You might think it's coming from the other person, but the reason why you dislike somebody is because you have certain expectations of them. You want certain things from them. You want them to be a certain way. And if people are that way, you like them. You get happy when you're with them. But if people don't do things your way, then you dislike them. This is the mind itself. It's craving permanence. It's craving for everybody to be a certain way. And when you're craving for everyone to be a certain way, this is the mind longing, yearning, wanting other people to be a certain way. And now this is the mind craving permanence. But the thing is that you live in an impermanent world. Every human being can't be exactly the same. Everybody's different. But as long as your mind is craving or expecting or wanting or longing or yearning for people to be a certain way, you'll like people who are that way, but you will dislike people who aren't that way. And this is where the mind has difficulties living harmoniously with all beings around you. So you might experience disharmony, like in a work environment. You might have some coworkers that you like and some that you dislike. Or you might have certain neighbors that you like and others that you dislike. Or you might have certain family members that you like and other ones that you dislike. This is coming from your own mind, but you can antidote this. You can fix this. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards other beings. And the way that you get to this, where you eliminate your anger, your hatred, your ill will, your frustration, your agitation, your annoyance, even the slightest dislike towards others, is you cultivate loving kindness in the mind, where you can be loving and kind towards all beings, not expecting or wanting them to be a certain way, understanding that the world is impermanent and it's not possible for everybody to be exactly the same, or the image that you have in your mind of how a human being should function. Not everybody is going to function that way. That's the way you function, but that's not the way everyone else functions. So as long as your mind is craving for everyone to function the same way as you, this is not only coming from your craving, desire, attachment, this is coming from your ego. This is coming from your conceit, thinking that I know what's right and what other people are doing is wrong, and they need to do it my way. And if they don't do it my way, I'm going to dislike them. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be hateful towards them. But if people do it my way, then I'll be happy and I'll like them, right? And I'll be considerate to them. But what the Buddha is teaching you with loving kindness in these 4 healthy mental states is to be loving and kind to all beings without judgment, where you're not judging other people to try to determine whether they deserve your love and your kindness, but you're just loving and kind with everybody regardless. And as you do this more and more in your life, this is what you're going to see coming back to you. But if you put out bitterness and harshness and animosity and bitterness and you're disliking others, then what you're going to see is that's going to come back to you. Because of this natural law of cause and effect, whatever you put out, that's what's going to come back to you. So if you put out love and kindness to all beings without judgment, this is essentially unconditional love, where you love people unconditionally, right? And if you're putting that out, that's what's going to come back to you. If you're finding it challenging in life, where maybe you feel like people don't love you, or you're having difficulties experiencing love in your day-to-day life, this is because of how you're practicing. You're not practicing true love with others, so therefore love isn't coming back to you. Because what we do in the unenlightened state is we have something called what I would refer to as conditional love. There's no such thing as conditional love, but that's oftentimes what we're practicing. It's actually craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as love. So what we might do is we might meet somebody and we say, oh, like we think they're handsome or beautiful, or we think that maybe they're intellectually attractive, or maybe we're attracted to their finances, or maybe we're attracted to their position in society. And now we get really affectionate of that person and we want this person in our life. And now we spend time with that person for a period of time, and we might get to the point where we say, I've fallen in love with you. And they say, I love you too. And now we're in love. We've fallen in love with each other, right? And now the time goes on in our relationship. And over time, we have certain expectations of them, certain things that we want from them. And they can't fulfill those things permanently. And then they want certain things from us, and they expect certain things from us. And we can't fulfill that for them permanently. And because of this, now the relationship becomes frustrated or discontent. There's anger and hostility in the relationship. And now we decide to break up. And we say, I have fallen out of love with you. Right? This isn't actually love. This isn't loving kindness. What this is I have these cravings, desires, attachments. I have these wants and these expectations, and I want you to fulfill these expectations. And as long as you fulfill these expectations, I will say I love you. And I will act like I love you. I will do things for you as if I love you. But the moment you stop doing things my way and you're not meeting my expectations, all bets are off. I don't love you anymore because you're not doing what I want you to do. This isn't actual love. But this is what you're going to hear in all kinds of songs, all kinds of books and movies. You'll see people that are falling in love with people and out of love with people. And this is maybe what you think you are doing. But in reality, what you're doing is you're falling into craving, desire, attachment, and you're falling out of craving, desire, attachment. That as long as this person meets your expectations, you will spend time with them and you will say that you love them. But this isn't actual love. We might call this conditional love. What we say here is we say, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy, right? It's all about me. It's all about me. You make me happy and I want you to be with me. And when you're with me, I'll be happy. But when you're not with me, I won't be happy. This isn't actually love. This is attachment. This is where your feelings are attached to this other person. And if this other person does things your way, you'll be happy. But if they don't do things your way, you'll be sad or frustrated. And because of impermanence, this person can't do things your way permanently. If you look around the world, everything around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. You're not going to be able to get this being to do things your way permanently. So as long as your mind is having those cravings, those expectations, those wants, you're essentially sabotaging your ability to have harmonious relationships. But the antidote to that, or the way to fix that, is to practice loving kindness, where you have this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have love and kindness towards all beings, where it's not, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. Instead, it's, I love you, therefore I love you as you are. I don't want you to be different. I don't long and yearn for you to be different. I'm not going to put my expectations on you and try to control you. I just love you as you are, unconditionally. That you haven't earned my love, therefore you can't do anything to make me stop loving you. There's nothing that you have to do in order to make me love you. Therefore, there's nothing that you could do to make me stop loving you. Over here with conditional love, you're going to think you're falling in love and out of love with people, but that's not actual love. That's expectations of wanting people to do things a certain way. Over here with loving kindness and this unconditional love is you just love people as they are. You're not trying to fix them or change them or force them to do things your way, that you understand that this is their own individual being. This person is making decisions on their own, and part of loving somebody as they are is to step back and not put expectations on them and trying to control them to do things your way, because it's not possible for everyone to do things your way. But if we have cravings, desires, if we have expectations, if we want people to be a certain way, if mom and dad do things our way, we'll be happy. But when they don't meet our expectations, we'll be frustrated and angry and irritated. So you might have grown up in a home where people are putting expectations on you, and people are trying to control you, and people are trying to force you to do things a certain way. And you think that that's love because that's what you've grown up with, that maybe parents are doing this to you. But you need to be able to see the truth and the wisdom of what is this loving kindness or this true love, so that you can now break through and start practicing true love more and more in your relationships, where you just love people as they are. So I can love every single one of you without having ever met you before, because what love is a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And I can love you. I don't want you to be different. I don't expect you to be different. I'm not putting my expectations on you and trying to control you or force you to be a certain way. I just love you as you are. And then as you ask for help, as you ask for support, I'm here to support you and help you to grow and develop. But if I have expectations of you, then I'm going to have this long list of things that I want from you. And I can only be happy if you do things that way. But if you get rid of all of that, you can just love people as they are, without judgment. So this part where it says without judgment is you're not judging other people to determine if they deserve your genuine interest in seeing them be well. You just love everybody. And one of the things that Buddha teaches you to be able to help you cultivate this in your mind is that he teaches you that because we've all been reborn so many times in so many previous lives, that it would be impossible to meet anybody who hasn't previously been your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, or some other relative. Now, this cycle of rebirth can be independently verified. You might not have the wisdom of how to do that right now, but in volume 11, chapter 105 of our book series, I give you 17 different ways that you can independently verify the cycle of rebirth. So if you go out into the world thinking that everybody is a stranger, and now this is a stranger that is going to harm me, and I need to be on guard, and I need to be fearful of the people around me, you're going to walk into the world and have a very different experience than somebody who walks out into the world and thinks, wow, these are just family members that I haven't met yet. These are all individuals that I used to be family with in the past. Maybe when we were lizards, you were my father. Right? And maybe when we were snakes, you were my sister, right? And now if you go out into the world and you think about each individual being, whether it's an animal or a human or otherwise, as previously being your family members, now maybe you can be loving and kind with those people. So instead of smashing the mosquito and killing it, you're like, whoa, that's grandma. that's grandma, right? Like in my previous life, maybe that was grandma. Why would I kill grandma, right? I'm not interested in that. Go away, mosquito. You're a mosquito now, grandma. I'm not interested in having you bite me. You could give me a disease. So you can go out into the world with a renewed perspective instead of looking at everyone like a stranger, and you need to be on guard and you need to be fearful because they're going to take something from you. Instead, look at individuals in the world as these are my family members. Here in Thailand, when we go out and we talk to people, we actually talk to people as if they are family members. If you learn a little bit of Thai, what you're going to hear people doing is when you go into a restaurant and you see that older lady behind the counter, we refer to her as her grandma. Even if we've never seen her a day in our life, we will refer to her as grandma. Or that elderly man or that younger man, whoever is, out there sweeping the streets, we might call him uncle. Right? Or like maybe the food server who's serving you food, that might be brother or sister. We literally refer to each other in that way with the Thai language. So we will say, brother, can you bring me a glass of water, please? Or grandmother, how much is it for that pad thai? Right? Or uncle, I would like to have some mango and sticky rice. Right? We refer to everybody as family members. So in your culture, if you went around speaking that way, people might look at you kind of odd. But if you think in your mind as if the people you're interacting with are literally your family members, you can go out into the world with a different perspective. And now you can be more loving and kind. And as you put out more and more loving kindness, you'll be able to experience that coming back to you. Whereas if you're over here and you're stuck with this conditional love, even though there's no such thing as conditional love, where you think you're falling in love and out of love with people, you're going to be stuck in this for the rest of your life. But if you can learn how to love everybody and you just put out more and more love with the people around you, then you'll be able to experience more and more love coming back to you. So the way that you cultivate this in your mind to eliminate this anger, hatred, ill will, and all these lesser versions, including the dislike, is you practice something called loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation, not the one that we did today, but a different meditation where you're essentially rewiring the mind to be more loving and more kind. It's like filling up your gas tank and you go out into the world and you're loving and kind with individuals. So if you started off your morning with loving kindness meditation, and then you went out into work or you went out into traffic and you're driving, you can be more loving and kind. Because instead of like riding somebody's bumper and not letting anybody into the traffic, you can be like, that's brother trying to get into traffic. Go ahead. You can have the lane. Go ahead. Right. And you can be more loving and kind in the world around you. And now more and more beings will start being loving and kind, and you'll see more and more of that coming back to you. So what you do to cultivate loving kindness is you practice loving kindness meditation on a regular daily basis. And this is gradually going to wear away your anger, hatred, and ill will. And then you practice through your intentions, your speech, and your actions to be more loving and kind. And the Buddha gives you guidance on your intention, speech, and actions to be more loving and kind in the Eightfold Path. That's why that's an important teaching to be able to learn first, because it's a core central teaching that's going to help you to understand how to be loving and kind based on the natural laws. And when you're putting out more and more love and kindness at work or in your personal life, you'll see more and more of this coming back. You shouldn't be loving and kind with others because you expect them to be loving and kind with you, because this is going to negate the whole experience. You should be loving and kind because you understand that it's a wise thing to do and that you're interested in being loving and kind in order to enhance the quality of your mind. And as you do that, you will see loving kindness coming back to you, so you'll know why that's occurring, but you shouldn't make that the reason why you're choosing to be loving and kind. So this is loving kindness. This is a healthy mental state that you can cultivate, and you'll experience more and more love and kindness coming back to you in your day-to-day life. If you get more and more in touch with what this is and you practice it, you'll be able to see that it works to transform your mind away from these unwholesome qualities, and more you can be loving and kind in your relationships around you. When you're practicing loving kindness meditation and you're practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life, you're not going to know how much anger and bitterness and hostility you're wearing away each individual day. But when it's completely gone, you're going to know that, because it'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. You haven't been angry. You haven't been bitter. You haven't been harsh. You haven't even had the slightest dislike towards another being. The Buddha gives an analogy of this to help you understand it, that if you had a digging tool and it had a wooden handle, and you were digging with this wooden tool every single day, you're going to be wearing away the wood of that handle every single day. And you're not going to know how much of the wood you're wearing away each individual day, but you're wearing away the wood every single day. When this handle needs to be replaced, you're going to know that. You're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away from the handle each day, but you're going to know when the handle needs to be completely replaced and because it's exhausted. And it's the same thing with your anger, hatred, and ill will. And you're cultivating this loving kindness. You're not going to know how much anger, how much bitterness or hostility, how much dislike you're going to be wearing away each day. But when it's completely gone, you'll know that because it'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years. You haven't been bitter and harsh and hostile. And you're going to see it in different relationships. So for me, growing up, I was very bitter and hostile with my mom for things that I was resentful for. And then as I trained my mind, I got to the point where I wasn't bitter and harsh and hostile with her anymore. I was only loving and kind with her. And then she started being loving and kind with me. But I still had bitterness towards my wife, right? So I had to work on that. I had to train my mind with that. And then slowly over time, I was wearing away that anger. And then now I'm not bitter and harsh with her anymore. It's been 5-6 years that I've seen any kind of bitterness, maybe even 7 years that I've seen any bitterness towards my wife. And it's been about 5 years that she hasn't been bitter and harsh and hostile with me either, because we're only loving and kind with each other. We don't have any harsh words with each other whatsoever anymore, where that wasn't always the case. We had to train our mind and gradually wear away this anger and this bitterness and this hostility. So it's loving kindness meditation that's going to help you to do that, and then practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life. Then there's something called compassion. What compassion is this is the concern for the misfortune of others. You know, there's unfortunate situations that happen in the world all the time. People are experiencing this misfortune based on certain decisions that they're making. They're experiencing certain misfortunes, and you're going to see those misfortunes. But if you felt indifferent towards those, where you could care less about what's happening with other people, that's because the mind's lacking compassion. Or if you were all the way on the other side of that, where you had worry and anxiety for every little thing that's happening in the world, this is because your compassion isn't in the middle. You haven't come to the middle. So you need to bring this to the middle. When you're having worry and anxiety about what's happening in the world, this isn't because of love. This is because of craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind wanting the world to be a certain way, expecting the world to be a certain way, not realizing that everybody's making individual decisions and they're experiencing the results of those decisions. So if you have worry and anxiety, like when you watch the news and you experience this worry or anxiety in the mind, this is because of craving the world to be a certain way. And your mind's on one side of the spectrum. But if you're all the way over here on the other side where you're indifferent and you could care less about what happened to people, that's not going to be healthy for your mind either. So cultivating this healthy mental state is to come to the middle where you can have concern for the misfortune of others. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take action upon that concern. In some cases you may, in some cases you may not. But what the Buddha is teaching you is to cultivate the healthy mental state of concern for the misfortune of others. And one of the things that he shares with you to be able to help you do this is he explains to you that anytime you see anybody having misfortune in the world, that you've also experienced those same misfortunes, either in this life or some previous life. And this, if you can put yourself in those people's shoes, then maybe you can have a bit more concern for them. So that homeless person that you see laying on the sidewalk in dirty clothes and lacking personal hygiene, instead of being indifferent to that, or instead of being worried or having anxiety about that, maybe you look at that and you're like, I experienced that too at one time. Maybe in this life or some previous life, you also experienced that exact same thing. And this can arise your concern for the misfortune of others. Now, whether you choose to take action in that situation is going to be unique to you. In some situations, maybe you do. Maybe you go buy some food or some water and you give it to this person. Perhaps that would be your generosity if you choose to do that. And that generosity is coming from your compassion for this concern for the misfortune of others. But in other situations, maybe you're on your way to a business meeting and you're already late and there's no way for you to actually do anything about this, and you just walk past. And in this situation, you can still maintain this healthy mental state of compassion, where you have concern for the misfortune of this individual, but because of the circumstances, you're not able to do anything in this particular situation. And that's okay. That's just impermanence. You're not going to be able to help every single person in the world. So if you can walk by without indifference and without worry and anxiety, and you can walk by and just maintain your concern for the misfortune of this being, now you can maintain your calmness and composure, that you don't have to be worried and having anxiety, and you don't have to have this indifference where you could care less about this person. You can walk down the street understanding like, this is really unfortunate. There's a homeless person here. I'm going to keep on going because I need to go to my business meeting, but this is really unfortunate. And you just keep walking in that particular situation. But maybe in another situation, you could help this individual. And that's a choice for you to be able to make in each situation. The way that you cultivate this compassion to get rid of the indifference and the worry and anxiety is you practice something called right mindfulness. What right mindfulness is where you're aware of what's going on in your mind. You have awareness of the mind. And then whenever you see the indifference or you see the worry or anxiety, you apply something called right effort, where you cut off and let go of that unwholesome quality of indifference or worry and anxiety. And then you arise this wholesome quality of compassion, where you have concern for the misfortune of others. This is part of the Eightfold Path. That's why I mentioned the Eightfold Path, because this is something that you need to learn as a beginning teaching. This is chapter 14 in our book. I taught the Eightfold Path back in chapter 4 and chapter 5. So if you haven't learned the Eightfold Path, you might not right now fully understand what right mindfulness and right effort is. But if you use the resources that I share in order to understand the Eightfold Path, you'll be able to understand what mindfulness and right effort is, because that's what you would like to use in order to help transition your mind away from the indifference or the worry and anxiety towards the middle, where you can now have this concern for the misfortune of others. So I'm going to pause here before I talk about the next two qualities and see if you guys have any questions. Remember, you guys can use the microphones here or online. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. So do you guys have any questions here, or anybody online have questions? No questions? Okay, let me check online here, see if we have any questions. All right, I'm not seeing any questions online either. Okay, so now let's go to the next two healthy mental states. This is sympathetic, joy, and equanimity. These are also antidoting certain issues in the mind, but let me explain to you what it is before I explain the challenges and struggles that you'll have and the symptoms, because then you'll know the prescription and the antidote to bring in. What sympathetic joy is, this is joy for others' success, even if you didn't contribute to it. This is the opposite of jealousy or envy, right? So maybe in a certain situation, you have sympathetic joy. Let's just say you go back to your home country and somebody's like, hey, I'm thinking about going on a trip to Thailand. And you're like, you're going to have such a great time. I went to Thailand too. There's this great mango and sticky rice. You can get massages. They have all these different activities that you can do. Oh, you're going to have a great time. This is sympathetic joy, right? Because you have joy for others' success, even though you didn't contribute to it. But now let's just say in another situation, you're at work and there's a promotion, there's a new position that's opened up, and it's going to be more responsibility and it's going to be more money for you. And you apply to this position, but some of your coworkers apply to it as well. And now let's just say you go through the interview process and a couple of weeks later, they get the job instead of you. Maybe you're jealous in this situation. Maybe you're envious in this situation. Maybe you're disgruntled and agitated. This is because of your own mind. This isn't because of them. This is because your own mind was craving that position. You were longing, yearning for that more money, that bigger title, that more responsibility. You really wanted it. And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you got angry or frustrated, or you got jealous or envious towards this individual. Well, the antidote to this is sympathetic joy, where you can learn to have joy for others' success, even if you didn't contribute to it. So when that person comes by your desk and says, hey, by the way, I got that promotion, and you notice the jealousy coming up in the mind, that's your mindfulness. Your right mindfulness. You notice the jealousy starting to come up into your mind. Well, if you know the antidote, you can apply right effort where you can cut off that jealousy. You can get that out of your mind, and now you can bring in the sympathetic joy. And you can say, oh, Barbara, congratulations. That's going to be so great for you and your family. Right? Even though inside you might have noticed some of the jealousy coming up, you can cut that off and let it go. And the more that you do this, more and more your mind won't experience that jealousy because you will have fully cultivated sympathetic joy. It doesn't matter what the situation is, you will actually be able to be sympathetic and joyful for this person, no matter what they've experienced. So just like the Buddha says that in the past, no matter what you see in terms of misfortunes that other people are experiencing, you've also experienced those same kind of things, and this can help you to develop compassion. The Buddha says the same thing about fortunate situations, that anything that you see somebody experiencing, that they're fortunate, the Buddha says you've experienced those same things in the past. So if you see that celebrity that you think, wow, their life is so perfect, they have all that money and that fame and that fortune, the Buddha says you've already experienced that in the past, either in this life or some future life, right? Or if you see someone driving a Lamborghini and you're like, oh, I wish I had a Lamborghini. The Buddha says you've already experienced that in the past. So if you can think about that, right, that you've already experienced a certain fortunate thing, this can help you to arise some sympathetic joy in your mind. So when you see someone experiencing something fortunate, even though you might not recall having experienced that in this life or in a previous life, just make your mind to the point where you change your perspective, where you're like, hey, I'm joyful for this person's success, even though you didn't contribute to it. And the way that you cultivate this sympathetic joy is with, again, your right mindfulness, your awareness of mind. When you see that awareness of mind, that the jealousy is starting to arise, you will notice it as a bodily sensation. This is going to be the first thing that you notice. If you think to the times when you've been angry or frustrated or agitated, there's some bodily sensations that are happening first. There's this tingling in the body. There's this tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, this heat in the face, this pressure in the skull. This is like an early warning system alerting you that your mind is about to get angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. Jealousy and envy have the exact same thing. There's going to be some bodily sensation. You might not be aware of it right now, but if you do this meditation that I just taught you with breathing mindfulness meditation, if you do this regularly, you're going to notice these bodily sensations. It's like an early warning system alerting you that your mind is about to experience discontentedness. So if you notice a bodily sensation associated with worry or anxiety or indifference or jealousy or envy, if you're noticing that with your mindfulness, you can apply right effort to cut that off and let it go. Then you can apply the effort to bring in the antidote, whether it's compassion or sympathetic joy. You can apply the effort to bring this in where you're joyful for others' success. Okay, so this is sympathetic joy, and this is going to help you eliminate the envy, the jealousy, and even pride. Then there's a healthy mental state called equanimity. This has got two aspects to it. So I'm going to teach you both sides of this, where there's mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. But then the root word here is equal. So the other aspect of equanimity is to treat everyone equally or impartially. So let me explain this to you. The calmness and composure, the evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. By you keeping your mind calm, you will then have mindfulness or awareness of mind. When you have mindfulness and awareness of mind, you will then have concentration, which is focus and clarity of mind. When you have clarity of mind and focus and concentration, you will be able to access your wisdom, make wise decisions, and you will be able to experience wholesome results in your day-to-day life. But if your mind is uncalm, if it's shaken up, you don't have mindfulness, you don't have awareness of mind, and now you don't have concentration or focus, and now you can't access your wisdom and make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. So if you got a phone call that your mom has been in a terrible car accident and she's in the back of an ambulance and being rushed to the hospital, if you hear that and you have an attachment to your mom and a craving for your mom to be permanently healthy, your mind will be shaken up in that situation. You will be uncalm. It's not because of your love. It's because of your craving for permanence and wanting mom to be permanently healthy. And this just isn't possible. So now when your mind's all shaken up, you don't have mindfulness, you don't have concentration, and you're not going to make wise decisions. You might grab your car keys, you might jump in the car, bolt across town, run into the hospital if you get there, because you might actually get in a car accident on your way there. But even if you get there, your mind's all shaken up. And now when the doctors and nurses are talking to you, you can't comprehend what they're saying, and you can't access your wisdom to make wise decisions to help mom. But if you cultivate equanimity, you can understand, mom's in the back of an ambulance. She's been in a terrible car accident. You know what? That's the best place for her. There's emergency medical technicians that are attending to her. She's about to arrive to a hospital with all kinds of equipment and doctors. This is perfect. Wonderful. I'm going to make my way to the hospital, and when I arrive, I can maintain my calmness and composure so that I can listen to the doctors and nurses, make some wise decisions, and really help mom. Allowing my mind to be shaken up and uncalm isn't going to help mom. It's not helping anybody, including myself. So the Buddha teaches you how to practice equanimity, including in difficult situations, especially in difficult situations, so that you can then access your wisdom and make wise decisions. And all these teachings of the Eightfold Path are going to help you to be able to get to the point where you don't have those cravings, desires, attachments, and wanting permanence, so that you can practice equanimity more readily. So now when you go out the door, you can calmly make your way to the hospital, talk to the nurses and doctors, make some wise decisions for mom, and mom gets healthy. But mom is not going to be permanently healthy. It's not possible. Dad is not going to be permanently healthy. It's just not possible, because they live in an impermanent world and their body is impermanent. It's constantly changing. So if you crave for them to be permanently healthy when they're unhealthy, you'll struggle during that situation. So you can maintain your calmness and composure to eliminate restlessness, worry, anxiety, and an overactive mind. This is going to help to remedy those from the mind. But then there's this other aspect of treating everyone impartially. If you went into work and you worked with, say, 6 people, and there's 2 people there that you particularly are fond of, and you brought them some donuts in the morning, the other 4 people, because of their craving, desire, attachment, they're going to get jealous. They're going to get envious. You didn't cause that in their mind, but nonetheless, your actions have now triggered their craving. And now what you might find is it's very difficult in this career and in this professional environment where you're treating some people one way and you're treating other people another way. Or say that you have multiple children and you treat some of your children one way and the other children another way. Or say you're a teacher and you treat some of your students one way and some of your students another way. In these situations, you're going to find it very challenging because you're not treating everyone impartially and everybody equally. Whereas if you treat everybody equally as an employer, as a teacher, as a parent, as a coworker, now you're just treating everyone the same. Everybody gets a meditation cushion. Everybody can have some water. Everybody can have some snacks. Everybody can use the bathrooms, right? Everybody can be treated equally. And now you're not treating people special, right? Everybody can have a chair if you would like to have a chair. Everybody gets to be able to enjoy whatever they would like to enjoy. And now you're treating everyone impartially. So people aren't getting jealous and envious, because when people are experiencing those painful feelings, they're going to think that you're actually causing it. Because of their lack of wisdom, think about it. When you experience anger and frustration, right now, you probably think other people are causing that. And then you might push them away. Or you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards them. Or you might put your expectations on people and try to control people. This is coming from the lack of wisdom. But if you understand the natural laws and you understand the teachings of the Buddha, you will come to understand that your feelings are being created by your own mind. It's not being created by other people. But other people don't know this. So if you're in a professional environment and people are getting jealous and envious, they're going to attribute their painful feelings to you. And then they're going to push you away. They're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to put their expectations on you and try to control you. So if you understand these natural laws, then you understand that it's wise to treat everyone impartially and everyone equally, because then it has less opportunity for these people to have their cravings, desires, attachments triggered, and now to vent that hostility out on you. So you can navigate the world more harmoniously and more peacefully when you understand these natural laws and you start treating everybody equally in all the different environments that you have. And the way that you cultivate this is through right mindfulness again, which is awareness of mind. And when you see any of these unwholesome qualities arising through your mindfulness, you apply right effort to cut that off and let it go. And then you apply the effort to bring in the antidote of equanimity or calmness and composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. Or if you see yourself getting ready to treat one person special and the other person aren't special, then you can see, this is unwise. I need to treat everybody equally. Okay, so do you guys have any questions on equanimity or sympathetic joy? Anything you'd like to ask about this? Okay, not seeing any questions anywhere. All right, so let me just share with you one more thing. This is not part of the Brahma-viharas, but it's part of the teachings of the Buddha, which is a healthy mental state. So I consider it to be a healthy mental state. It's called generosity. In order to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to eliminate your longing, your yearning, your craving, your wanting and expecting people to be a certain way. Because in the unenlightened state, what's happening is the mind is holding on. It's wanting things to be permanent. You can see this for yourself. If you look at the relationship with your previous boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys were together, you were so happy, you felt great. But then when you guys broke up, you felt lonely or bored, or you were angry or frustrated, or you started missing this person. This is because your mind was holding on and you were craving permanence. It's not because of your love. It's because you were wanting this relationship to be permanent. And now you can look at that and you can see that at some point you were angry and bitter and harsh in your own mind perhaps, or you were lonely or bored. And maybe for a few weeks or a few months, you experienced that. But at some point, your mind let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let him go. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let her go. Whatever it was, eventually your mind let go. And when you let go, that's where your peace and your joy came back, that you stopped being so lonely and bored, and you stopped being angry at this person. You stopped having that missing feeling that you just missed them so much and you wanted to be back with them. So with craving, desire, attachment in the mind, you'll experience discontentedness. You'll be angry and frustrated and agitated or annoyed. But you can eliminate this from your mind. When you train your mind to let go, you can experience peace and joy. So the breathing mindfulness meditation that we did this morning is helping your mind to let go. It's not actually to eliminate your thoughts. Each time your mind moves off your breath and you let go and you have to come back to the breath, this is training your mind to let go. So if every day you're training your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation to let go, let go, let go, over time with this breathing mindfulness meditation, your mind will be able to let go, where you can enjoy your relationships and spending time with each other, but you're not holding on to it and clinging to it, longing, yearning for it, forming your inner feelings based on this person. So you can get past that, where your mind's liberated and you're free from that. So breathing mindfulness meditation will help you do that, but also generosity. Generosity is the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. This is like your time, your effort, your energy, your resources. You can share with other people, because when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you'll tend to be selfish. You'll tend to hold on to things. It's like, this is my food. This is my jewelry. This is my money, right? It's mine, 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 mine. And you won't be interested in sharing with others. But you can get to the point where you live open-handedly and you share with other people around you, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. And you can do this in a very simple way. It doesn't have to be drastic. Like, say you're walking into a store and there's somebody coming in behind you. You're opening the door for yourself. You could hold the door for the person behind you. This is sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources more than is strictly required in any given situation. But you need to make sure you're doing that without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door, expecting a thank you, and they don't say thank you, you will be frustrated. You will be agitated. You'll be annoyed. This is because your own mind is expecting everybody to say thank you. There's this permanence that the mind wants. Now, maybe when you walk through the door, you typically say thank you, but not everybody will. That's impermanence. But if you crave permanence, when you're standing there holding the door and you're wanting a thank you, and this person doesn't give that to you, you'll be frustrated. So if you're holding the door, you're practicing pure generosity, you need to be without any expectation of anything in return, including even a thank you. Right? Not even a thank you. Don't expect that. Don't long and yearn for it. To get to pure generosity, it needs to be without any expectation of anything in return. And now you can be liberated. Your mind can be free, and you can train your mind to let go. Because now you practice generosity with only one goal in mind. The goal of practicing generosity is to enhance the quality of your mind. That's the purpose of generosity. The purpose of generosity isn't because you want to thank you, or you're not letting someone borrow money because you expect to borrow money from them too, or you're not giving them food because you expect to get food back from them. That's not generosity. That's still a craving, desire, attachment. You would like to offer someone food because you're enhancing the quality of your mind and you're training it to let go, because otherwise your mind's going to be very selfish. So on one side, if you were never practicing generosity, your mind's going to be quite selfish. But if you're on the other side of this, where you're excessively practicing generosity, you're not going to have the basic necessities that you need in life, because you're going to need food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and things like this. So if you were practicing generosity excessively, where you were giving without even thinking about your own being, then you're going to exhaust your resources. So you need to come to the middle, even with something like generosity, where you're giving and sharing with the people around you, but you're doing it from the middle way, where you're not being selfish, but you're also not sharing excessively. So generosity, in my opinion, is a wholesome mental state. It's a healthy mental state that is going to cultivate the non-craving and non-clinging to the point where you can train your mind to let go. And now you can be more free and more peaceful. The way that the Buddha teaches this, and what you'll see will actually work, is frequency is more important than the amount. So if you have the option of giving $500 once a year, or you could give $1 a day to a children's orphanage, the $1 a day is actually going to be more beneficial to you, because your mind has to let go more frequently. So that's why, like here in Thailand, you'll see different places, like if you go to stores and different things like this, there's like donation boxes pretty much everywhere. You could put 10 baht or 20 baht or whatever it is for you. Just put a little bit of money each time, and this is training your mind 3, 4, 5 times a day to let go. Or if you're donating food or clothing or something like this, you can be doing this frequently throughout your day, and it trains your mind to let go. And you can also do these things in a very non-impactful way. Like say you're at the market. Like sometimes I go to the market and I'm buying myself some orange juice. Well, I look over there and I see some avocados and I'm like, my wife likes avocados. Maybe I'll buy some avocados. So it takes me like 30 seconds to a minute to buy a couple of avocados and take that home with me with my orange juice. And now I've just practiced some generosity to share with my wife, right? Or maybe I'm coming here and I'd like to bring some snacks for students. Maybe I'm at the 7-Eleven buying myself a snack, and maybe I just buy 2 or 3 or 4 extras for some other people. So you can implement generosity in your life where it doesn't have to be this exhausting amount of time and effort and energy. You can just do little simple things here and there to integrate it into your life. And this is going to be the frequency that you need to be able to practice generosity. But you need to do that from the middle way, like I mentioned, and do it without any expectation of anything in return. So this is going to help you to transform your mind away from the selfishness. Here's the teaching from the Buddha. He says, monks, if beings knew as I know the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness obsess them and take root in their minds, even if it were their last bite. their last mouthful. They would not eat without having shared it, if there was someone to share it with. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given, and the stain of selfishness obsesses them and takes root in their minds. What he's saying is that because beings do not know as I know the results of giving and sharing, he's saying because beings do not know the peace and the joy of the enlightened mind, and that generosity is what leads to that peace and joy, they eat without having shared it, and they allow the stain of selfishness to obsess their mind. But if beings knew the peace and the joy of this enlightened mind, and it was generosity that led to that, and you understood that, you would not eat without having shared it, if there was someone to share it with. So you would like to be able to share with other people. That's why here in Asia, typically the food goes in the middle, and we all share food. Right? So here in Asia, there's some people that are in generational poverty. They can't afford very much food. So if you're in a family of 4 or 6 or 8 people, you might not have enough food for everybody to feel full at the end of this meal. But if all this food goes in the middle, and we're all being considerate, and we take 2 or 3 spoonfuls, and we eat those 2 or 3 spoonfuls, and then we take another 2 or 3 spoonfuls, and we eat those 2 or 3 spoonfuls. At the end of this meal, everybody got a little bit of food. Not everybody's full, but we've all gotten a little bit of food by the end of this meal. So if you're sharing your food, this is a great way to be able to help you practice generosity. Because one of the things that the unenlightened mind does is it functions kind of like an animal. If you think about an animal will hoard its food and it won't share, right? Like a lion or a dog or something like this. It won't share its food because it's hoarding its food. We are human beings. We are not animals. But the unenlightened mind functions very much like an animal. What this path to enlightenment is, among other things, is to become a better and better human being, where you're functioning more and more like a better and better human being. So you don't need to hoard your food. If you go to the store and you buy a bag of potato chips and you pop open this bag of potato chips and you've got friends around, maybe send the bag of potato chips around to the people around. And maybe if the bag comes back to you and it just has 1 potato chip, okay, eat your 1 potato chip and then go to the store and buy another bag. It wasn't that expensive. Just get another bag, right? No big deal. So the Buddha is saying that if you're practicing this generosity, if you understand how peaceful and joyful the mind is, and you're practicing this generosity, you would not eat without having shared it if there was someone to share it with, because you would like to be able to live open-handedly and be joyful in letting go. So this is a teaching from the Buddha on generosity, but he has others as well. This is just one that I find to be pretty impactful, so that's why I typically share it. Do you guys have any questions on generosity? Steve, you have a question? Steve usually breaks the ice, and then after Steve, then a whole bunch of other people start asking questions.
Oh, thank you, David. Very, very good talk. It's interesting that the reference to right mindfulness comes up quite a lot in describing each of these. So apart from describing, if I'm understanding correctly, having awareness of these states becomes a powerful tool in day-to-day life. Like if I'm not aware that I'm angry, then I haven't got a chance, right? I'm just going to express it. I may not even be aware that I was angry. Mm-hmm. But, being aware of whether I'm in an unwholesome state or a wholesome state, and this describes corrective action. And just perhaps an obvious question, but in terms of the corrective action, I guess cutting off sooner is preferred, but cutting off any time is still good. I mean, to take an example like anger, I could feel the anger and it's best to cut off there, but then I may be feeling, and then I may start expressing the anger to another person. Mm-hmm. But even if I start expressing the anger, it's better to still cut it off when I become aware, right? Because sometimes with these unwholesome things, you can think, I've really got the urge to express this anger. And sometimes it manifests like that. Better off if you cut it off, right?
Yeah, what you're saying is 100% true. You would like to cut it off as soon as possible, because the longer you allow your mind to dwell in any kind of discontent feelings, it just stays wired that way to keep forming those feelings and keep dwelling in those feelings. So that's why you would like to catch it as a bodily sensation, because that's catching it before the mind's had the ability to form the feeling. And now this is what's going to transform your mind. But if you miss it as a bodily sensation and you happen to catch it later as a feeling or the condition of the mind or what have you, it's still beneficial for you to cut it off there. It's kind of like a wild bush, that this wild bush is growing and you keep cutting it back and cutting it back and cutting it back. And eventually you'll get down deep enough that you'll uproot this out of the mind, and then you won't experience those unwholesome qualities anymore. So what you're just saying there is 100% correct, that you would like to cut it off as soon as possible. But if you miss it, cut it off at your soonest ability to do so. And that's where you're going to see the real transformation of the mind. And you're going to experience more and more improvement to the condition of the mind. But you need to be able to catch it as soon as possible. And the more you back it up to the bodily sensations, that's where the real transformation is occurring. If you can cut off, if you can notice each one of these discontent feelings as a bodily sensation and cut it off and let it go there, you'll get to enlightenment within 1 to 3 years, because it takes you a certain number of years just to get to the point where you can notice the bodily sensations associated with discontentedness. And then from that point where you're noticing every single time and you're cutting it off and letting it go every single time, you will get to enlightenment in 1 to 3 years. So the 4 foundations of mindfulness are so key to be able to help you to transform your mind and actually get to enlightenment. Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn, and thank you for your sharing. Mm-hmm. You just mentioned we live in an impermanent world, and it's kind of a delusion to build a permanent relationship with someone else. Like if you mentioned if we want to be with someone else, just be with it. So my question is, does it mean it's meaningless to maintain the relationship with others?
No, the answer is no, because what the mind typically does in the unenlightened state is it craves permanence. And if it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. And that's what the unenlightened mind is doing, is it's chasing those pleasant feelings, and it's wanting that. And it's like, well, if I can keep this relationship permanently, I get so happy. But if I can't keep it permanently, well, then it's just useless and I shouldn't even have a relationship. That's because the mind has craving and it wants those pleasant feelings. But if you understand that the goal in this life is not to get conditioned pleasant feelings, but instead to make wise decisions about your life and get to the permanent happiness and the permanent joy, which is unconditioned happiness. When you can get to that permanent happiness and permanent joy, you're going to have plenty of relationships around you, and they're meaningful, they're satisfying, they're fulfilling. Where right now you might have relationships that are unsatisfying and unfulfilling because they're not meeting your expectations. But if you get rid of those expectations, every relationship is fulfilling, right? Like even just our little exchange right here, like this is enjoyable. This is friendly to be able to help you and talk to you. But then I might not ever see you again in the rest of your life, perhaps. Or maybe you decide that you would like to learn and become a regular student. But either way, our relationship is impermanent, that I'm going to die or you're going to die or what have you. But if I can only choose to have this relationship, if I get something out of it, namely those pleasant feelings, which is what the mind's looking for, then that's still a craving, desire, attachment. But you can get to the point where you're not having relationships because you want something, but just because you're interested in relating with other people and having satisfying, fulfilling, and sustaining relationships. And that's what will actually do it. Because as long as you have relationships where there's expectations and there's wants, this is sabotaging your ability to be in this relationship long term, because it's only a matter of time before they do something that you don't want them to do, or you're expecting them to do something and they don't do it. Or the same thing in return. They're wanting or expecting something from you and then you don't do it. They get angry and then they push you away. So if you get rid of these expectations and this longing, yearning, you can have long-term sustaining relationships that are meaningful and sustainable and satisfying and utterly fulfilling.
So So we can make some efforts and maintain some kind of relationships, but just not in a conditional, expectational way.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're not interested in clinging to this relationship where, like me and my wife, we've been together for 18 years. We spend time together. We enjoy our time together, but it's impermanent. There's times where she goes to America and she works for 2 months or 3 months out of the year and we don't see her. Me and my son are just at home, but we're not like, oh, we miss mommy. Where's mommy? Why isn't mommy coming back? Why did she go to America? Oh, she's so bad to leave us here. Why did she do this to us? This is like putting yourself in this victim role that now mom is the one who's causing these lonely feelings, these missing feelings. No, mom didn't do anything wrong, so to speak. She's just impermanent in our life, and she can't make enough income here in Thailand to sustain her life. So she's choosing to go away for 2 months at a time, make some additional income, and then she comes back. And if we're not attached to her, if we're not clinging to her and wanting and expecting her to be a certain way, then we can be happy and have lots of fun and enjoyment when she's with us, but we can also do that when she's away. When we're just here by ourselves, we can enjoy that too. So you would like to be able to have relationships where you enjoy them, but you're not forming your feelings on whether you have this relationship or not, or whether this person is with you or not. And that's where the Eightfold Path really comes in, because that's what's going to transform your mind and help you to be able to learn how to train your own mind, where you're not forming your feelings based on this person or this relationship.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See, Steve, you broke the ice again.
Just landed here like from Japan this morning about 6 a.m. And it's my third time in Chiang Mai, but I never thought this place would be so spiritual. It's the first time joining a lecture, a congregation like this. But it might sound quite obscure, from a Christianity point of standpoint, it's about human beings' relation with Jesus Christ, or some supreme power above, somewhere floating in heaven. But Buddhism was as you have mentioned, it was actually derived in a Brahma's sort of a feudal Indian society. So nobody actually traveled beyond 100 miles or anything. Languages hasn't been mutually intelligible. People are sort of lived in a container sort of society. But in short, so if a Christian got in a sort of extreme scenario, if a Christian got trapped in a small no man's island or somewhere, and people can still establish a relationship with the supreme power, with the God, Jesus Christ, whatever you call it. But with on the other hand, with a Buddhist, if you have no relatives, nobody to hold your door behind you, nobody would expect you to thank them, because everything is done for you, right? You never get to meet your landlord. Basically, you got all your money, deposited every month. So everybody's Mr. Nobody. That's no face to their names. So is this, generosity and all these notions are still relevant? Do you think it's still sort of relevant in this, society, if you like?
Sure.
So because it was derived in a very close pack, feudal, very sort of tight container kind of society, but Christian was developed in the other extreme, pretty much.
Okay, so what the Buddha did is he figured out what's called the natural laws of existence. He understood these natural laws that are affecting us whether we're aware of it or not. Kind of like gravity. Gravity affects you whether you're aware of it or not. And when you lack wisdom of gravity, you're going to fall down, you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to have all kinds of difficulties and struggles with this gravity, because it's a natural law that you're living within. It's affecting you, but you have no wisdom of it whatsoever. So you make unwise decisions that's leading to unwholesome results. So what the Buddha did is he was able to see these natural laws, and he was able to describe them in a way that's timeless. His teachings aren't trapped in a certain culture or a certain time frame. His teachings are describing this natural laws that are affecting you today, whether you're aware of them or not, because they're the same natural laws that existed during the lifetime of the Buddha as exists today. So when you tap into these natural laws and you start to not believe them, but you learn them, examine them, investigate them, you reflect on them to independently verify them, and you practice them, you'll be able to see that just like the Buddha's mind was able to get to enlightenment based on those natural laws, you can actually experience the exact same thing. So his teachings aren't stuck in a certain time frame or a certain location, geographical region, a certain culture, They're not stuck in a certain time frame. They're timeless, that they apply all throughout time, because these natural laws don't change. They're the same exact natural laws that existed during his lifetime as exists now.
It appears like 90% of your worries and your doubts and, what's tormenting mentally comes from like human relationships, basically relationships with your wife, with your superior, with your,
That's not true.
Isn't it better to sort of detach yourself, live your life in a airtight container rather than having all this complicated, convoluted sort of relationship? Is it better to sort of exile, like on a small island or somewhere?
No, because the problem with being on that small island is your mind is going to follow you there. And the problem isn't your wife or your husband or your boss or your parents. That's not the problem. The problem is within your own mind. And when your mind is having these pollutions in the mind and you haven't trained it to be disciplined, you can't control your mind. So when you're on that small island by yourself, you're still going to have difficulties and struggles within your own mind. So being detached doesn't mean that you don't have relationships. That's a big misunderstanding that people have. Hold on. People think that detachment is to avoid contact with other people. The idea of like going into a cave and being alone and getting to enlightenment, this isn't actually possible. You can't go into a cave alone and get to enlightenment. The Buddha was around people in order to get to enlightenment. We talk about how he went into the forest. Yeah, he went into the forest, but he came out every single day and interacted with people because that's how he got food. So you're going to need to interact with people in order to be able to get to enlightenment. You can't go live on a deserted island and get to peace and joy because your mind's still going to have pollution in the mind. So by you learning how to train your own mind and relating to people harmoniously, you will be able to get to peace and joy. But because you lack wisdom of how to do that, that's why you haven't been able to do it. So the teachings of the Buddha are there to provide you the wisdom of how to do it, but then you don't believe his teachings. You learn them, you reflect on them, and you practice them, and then you'll see that they actually work.
So in general, you can't attain like enlightenment without association with pretty
exactly
much with a society in any sort of form. So if you're like your mind craves for a relationship or some kind of attachment, intimate attachment, try not to avoid it. Is that what your approach to it? So, or basically, if you get yourself too deep in a relationship, you're gonna regret other things. It's definitely not gonna go your way.
The problem isn't the relationship. The problem and the cause of the problem is that the mind is frustrated or angry, irritated. That's the problem.
Yeah, but if it is zero, if you don't have a relationship, isn't it?
Hold on. The cause of that problem is that the mind is wanting this other person to be a certain way. And now, if that person does things your way, you're happy. And if they don't do things your way, you're frustrated or angry. You'll never be in an environment where everybody does things your way. So as long as your mind's craving permanence, then you're going to be frustrated in all your relationships. But if you can get to the point where you understand that, yeah, sometimes people are going to interrupt you when you're talking, and it's unwise to interrupt somebody when they're talking, but sometimes people are going to interrupt you, and that's unfortunate, but they're going to choose to do that, and that's just impermanence. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to have an expectation that somebody will do things a certain way. You can still love somebody, even though they maybe have done something unwise. You can still love them, and now you don't get frustrated or angry at them. You can just have love and care and concern for all beings. But if you want people to be a certain way, you'll get angry and frustrated, but it's coming from your own mind. It's not coming from that person.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yep.
So in relation to generosity, and I'm just reflecting on the teaching there of if we knew that giving and sharing, if we didn't have something to eat, for example, and I'm reflecting on that in relation to compassion. So if I walk past somebody and they are begging for food or something like that, and I'm on my way to go eat something. So, like, I don't know, in reflection for that teaching, right? And in reflection that, like, everyone's been my family member, right? Is there a responsibility there to, like, kind of stop and or bring this person food or something like that? Like, or like, sometimes I can notice, like, within my own mind, like, oh, I might like to give this person food, right? But then, like, maybe there's a craving, desire, attachment there as well, right? Like, to be a better human or something. So just reflecting on that teaching and reflecting on, like, generosity and compassion, it's like, where do I kind of, like, be like, oh, well, actually, I'm, like, on my way to do things, and, like, I've got other things to do as well. I can't just stop every time I see somebody in a position of, like, needing something. But then in reflection of, like, oh, everyone's been my relative, then yeah, like, it's yeah, like, how would you approach something like that?
Okay, so there's no responsibility that you have to do something in any given situation. The only thing you have to do is die. That's it. You can't change that. This being is going to die. Everything else you do in life is optional. So the Buddha's not giving you a decision tree that if you see a homeless person, you need to do this. Or if you see someone being abused, you have to do this. Or if, that would be like plug and play. That would be like there's a permanent answer for every single situation. But each situation is going to be different and unique because of impermanence. So moving to this higher consciousness isn't to follow a bunch of rules and commandments, isn't to follow a decision tree. It's to use your higher consciousness to decide what you're going to do in any given situation, and be understanding that your decision is going to be different in each situation. In some situations, you might be able to help. In other situations, you're not able to. But that's a decision for you to make, because there's so many different variables involved. Your time, your energy, your financial resources, all these other things. There's many different decisions for you to make, and you need to move to this higher consciousness to be able to then make those decisions. But what these are healthy mental states that you cultivate, but that doesn't mean that there's any action behind it. Notice that I didn't talk about that there has to be some type of action. This is a mental state that you're cultivating. And if you purify your mind with these healthy mental states, you'll decide in each situation what is wise and unwise for you based on your own variables that you experience, rather than this decision tree that would kind of imply that there's one right answer and that's a permanently right answer in every given situation, which that's not the case. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, great conversation, guys. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for coming to the temple. Thank you for your interest to learn. Thank you for our conversation. If you guys would like to learn more, there's opportunity for you guys to do that. You can get access to these books by downloading them from our website, taking them and go print them. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can order them on Amazon. You can attend classes, courses, and retreats while you're here in Thailand. We have classes, courses, and retreats. You can see the calendar over there. It's also on our website as well. And when I'm teaching here, I'm live streaming. So no matter where you are in the world, you can join by Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. And then if you can't attend live, you can actually watch the recording. You can even get personal guidance. And all this is available for you at no cost. You can sit down with me and talk personally. You can schedule an appointment online and we'll meet in Zoom if you're traveling and you're not here in Chiang Mai. I also travel around the world and teach at different places. So anytime you're interested in learning, you have that ability. The only thing that's standing in your way is your own dedication, your own effort, your own determination. So I've removed all the obstacles so that you can choose to learn how to escape these discontent feelings where you don't have to experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings. You can heal from what hurt you, so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is within your own mind. And when you come to understand that in a way that you can independently verify, you can actually apply real attention to the actual problem. But if you keep thinking that the cause of your problems is external, you'll never actually be able to fix your problems because you can't go around and train other people. You can't change other people to do things your way, but you can train your own mind to relate in the world in a more peaceful, more harmonious way. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, I'm here to help you. So have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day, whatever you choose to do. Take care and be well, and perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee-ka. Sawadee-ka. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.